Hello, long time no see. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Travis Treadway. I'm a visual effects artist, and I am going to show you today part 2 of the shield setup. This video is just going to cover the material, and that's it. I'm not going to use any outside stuff. I'm going to use the starter content from Unreal. No texture work. This is just what is available to you as a consumer of the Unreal Engine and a developer. You can get this anywhere you're at in the world. Just download the engine with the starter content available inside of the engine, and you will have everything you need for this video. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and dig into it. All right, so let's dig into part 2 of the shield system. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the shader in this one. We left off last time with just the material being set up with the bullets hitting the side of it and reacting and growing to them. But we're going to add a little bit more depth to the shader to make it feel a little bit more alive, so we don't have such hard edge circles and or just very simple coloring across the entire shield. We're going to add some more to it to make it a little bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and dig into the shader. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. You'll notice me say shader a few times. I'm just kind of used to referring to them as shaders. That's what they're called in Unity, but in Unreal they are called materials. So they're basically the same thing. Unreal just happens to have a little bit different of a setup and naming conventions for stuff. But we're going to go ahead and open up the material shield. This is our same material that we had set up from the last video I did. We have the color right here, the opacity, the distance, everything is set up exactly if you follow along in the first video. I'm sorry, I'm just going to delete that to clean it up. That's not connected to anything right now. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So for the shield, I kind of want to start adding in some new elements that make it feel a little bit more sci-fi shield-like. So I think the first thing I want to do is put a fresnel on it. Right now we kind of have this very basic color that spans across the entirety of the material. I kind of want to give it a different edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to put down a fresnel node that's weirdly spelt. It's spelt like fresnel, but the S is silent, so it's just fresnel. And then with the fresnel, we're going to go ahead and plug that right into our opacity. So you'll notice with this, once we plug that in, you're going to see on the shader here, or on the sphere, now we have a lighter edge to it, and then a lot more open and less opaque center part, which is honestly super cool and gives us that nice little sci-fi glowing edge look to it. So while we have the connection with the ground, let me move this over, you can kind of see what the fresnel looks like. The fresnel actually goes a super long way. So we took what we had before, just was one simple color, and we turned it already to make it look a way, way more sci-fi and way cooler. So I'm happy with that fresnel. We're going to take that fresnel and we're going to multiply it by our opacity node, so that way we have a dial inside of a material instance that we can use to make it a little bit more opaque or a little bit more transparent. All right, so next off, we're going to go ahead and make it look a little bit more sci-fi. I'm going to just set this up over here so that way everything's looking nice. If you press Q, remember that lines up your nodes. So if I press Q here, you'll notice opacity goes up, which is not what we want in this case. But if you just do two nodes like this, press Q, boom, they line up all pretty, which really helps when you got long lines of nodes that you can press Q, and boom, you got a way prettier look to your material graph here. So now that we have the fresnel set up, I want to add in a very simple but very effective thing to add, which is the refraction. So we're going to go ahead and make a scalar parameter here. I'm just going to hold down S and click. That's going to give me a scalar parameter. And I'm going to call this refraction. The reason we do these scalar parameters is so that later when we go to, let's search for this, when we go to create a material instance later, which will be very helpful to have, I'll just go ahead and showcase this for you now, but when we build a material instance, this will update along with our material the whole time. So every time we apply our new shader or our new material's values, this will update automatically to our material instance. And in our material instance, we can open it up and see in real time changes that we can put on the material. So these are the base values that we set inside of the material. But if we, change these numbers, we can now live see what happens as we add, let's say, more opacity to it or take away some. So now you get a nice, more opaque sphere here. Or you can even take it all away with a 0. But that's why we do scalar parameters. It makes them very easy to change later on. And when we're dialing sort of what our art looks like, it's a lot faster to live update it rather than to do and apply every single time we want to make a change. So that's why we do scalar parameters. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. Actually, I guess this is a perfect chance to show you. On here, you'll see there is no refraction variable here. Right now, we just have distance, emissive, and opacity, which is opacity, distance, and emissive, these 3 scalar parameters. But if we take this scalar parameter and we plug it into refraction, press apply, you'll notice an immediate update in our material instance. So let's go ahead and open that up. Boom, refraction. And with refraction, it works just a little bit differently than how it works, or than how opacity works. With opacity, 1 is full opacity, but with refraction, 0 is full refraction. It's weird how it's backwards, so a lot of the stuff that we set up, we have to do a 1 minus node to invert our values. But let's say for this one, I'm just going to do 0.9. Let's see how it looks in here. So now you'll see you got a little bit more of that sci-fi element, but it's still a little strong. Let's do just 0.99, just very subtle. We don't want it to feel too strong, so that way we get just some cool refraction as we look through the sphere. There we go, yeah, this looks pretty good. Nice and shiny, it looks a little bit newer, or not newer, but more sci-fi. If we play around in here, you can now walk around and see, oh, now the changes are happening on the other side, which is one great thing about this now is I can edit the material instance over here, and you will see the changes live update in here, I believe. Not working for me. Oh, yep. I now know what the problem is. Sorry, I had to cut right there and be like, what's going on? But this is a silly fix. I totally forgot to go into my shield and then change from my material shield to my instance. So now my instance is going to be the element that the materials are using. And now you will be able to see a live update on the changes being made. So I want it to be very, very subtle. I don't want it to be super jarring to the player. I just want it to be enough that it feels like it is a little bit more volumetric. Now you can see, oh, well, we could probably add just a little bit more opacity to it, get some of that hard glowing edge here, as well as have that refraction. So we get some cool looks to this now, which looks great, but I think it's time we add in just another element to make it feel a little bit more organic. Right now it just feels like we created a random sphere in space, so I think what we need to do is add some noise to it. So let me go ahead, sorry, let me check my notes here. Stand by. I'm sorry. Cool, there are my notes. Awesome. Yeah, so perfect. We are going to add some noise to the shield that's going to make it feel a little bit more organic. What's cool with this tutorial, I'm not going to use any textures that you guys do not have. I'm going to use only what the engine provides us for now. I want to make this solely about using shader graph to create, or a material graph to create a effect for you. So we're going to create a texture sample. Texture sample. We want a texture sample. There we are. So we have a texture sample here, and then what's cool is Unreal provides you with a noise texture. So T underscore noise 01. We get this really cool little noise texture here. And what we're going to do to make it feel just a little bit more alive, we're going to take our noise and we're going to pan it. So we're going to need a panner. And then we'll go ahead and add a texture coordinate node. Sorry, my keyboard is like all the way over here. Texture coordinate node. Texture coordinate will set us up so that way we can do tiling. So if we want our texture to tile a bunch, you can add 5, for instance. And then if we start previewing the node, you'll see now the node tiles 5 times in the horizontal. But right now we don't need that. We might need it later on. But what's cool about this when it pans, let me actually go to the panner and I'm going to put 1 in the Y. So you'll notice now we'll have this thing panning. Oh, where am I? Live update. Come on. Am I still playing? Yep, I'm playing. Cool. So if you turn off your playing in the background, you'll get the live update over here. So now I've got this texture panning, which looks cool and would be fun to throw on the shield. You know what? Why not? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and just throw it right on the shield. I'm going to go ahead and let's replace base color for now. Let's try it out. We're going to lose our color for now. We're going to apply, but you're going to be able to see this texture now panning across the entire sphere. Stand by. Shaders compiling. There we are. So now look at that. Oh, we still have our color. Cool. So I'm running into the base color. We no longer have our emissive color, do we? Oh no, we keep our emissive. Yeah, I replaced base color. Perfect. So now we've got our texture tiling up. Look at that. Our shield looks already more alive. But it seems like, actually I kind of like that. Let's roll with that. I was going to go a different direction, but this is actually turning out pretty rad. So I'm going to veer off of my notes for this one. But I am going to go ahead and add on our next step, which I was going to do, which we're going to need for making the edges of the impacts a little different. Just go ahead and copy and paste this. We're going to have the exact same setup down below. But what we're going to do is we're going to add this one with our bottom texture. And instead of using our noise texture, Unreal also has inside of their starter content a bunch of really cool textures for water, which actually adds a super cool dynamic. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in here now. And we'll go ahead and worry about that in a second, but that'll be good to have later on. But now that we have the... Well, hold on. All right, now that we have the textures set up, what I want to do is add just one more layer of depth to it, and that is going to be with the normal. So actually, this works out great. We'll go ahead and take... I guess we don't need the normal to move as much, but we'll go ahead and add it to make it feel a little bit more organic once again. I'm going to copy the texture coordinate, the panner, and the texture sample. I'm going to go ahead and paste them. I'm going to bring that up here. And we're going to go ahead and use the T_water normal. And we're going to take that water normal, which is a super cool normal map, and we're going to go ahead and add it right into the normal category on here, which is going to get us a very, very cool result, as you'll see here. Let me apply. Now that that's applied, we'll go back to our shader and see it in real time. Oh, there we go. Now we get some of that waviness inside of the refraction as well. So now we got a really fast moving normal map too. But for this normal map, I don't want it to feel so crazy. I kind of want it to feel a little bit more, I don't know, I guess the word would be tame. So instead of it going at 1 speed, let's go ahead and bring it down to 2. And let's just see how that looks. All right, moving over, shaders compiling. But you'll notice, see how much time it takes to go with a shader compiled. That's why we do the material instance. Oh my goodness, this looks so nice. I love this. I love this. It makes our shield feel way more alive, way more techy, way more organic. I like it. So now if we go in and play, you can walk around here. You can see a move right. Just give a little wiggle to it. Makes it feel a little bit more organic, a lot more alive. One thing we can add, maybe do some vertex offset to make it feel a little bit more alive there. But for now, let's just go ahead and leave it strong there. And I guess let's focus on the impacts now that we got a pretty good look going on with the shield itself. So for the impacts right now, we have them just filling up with a full bright white center. Instead of it doing that, we kind of want to go towards a glowing edge to them. So we want a glowing edge with a sort of center push out, but I want it to feel like these impacts are a lot stronger. And then I also want them to fade out over time. So right now they're shooting, they get all big and then they stay put, which is honestly pretty gross to look at. We want it to feel a lot more, another use to the word organic, but make it feel like the shield is actually alive and is reacting to these bullets. Because in the third session of these videos, we're going to cover the particle system. And the particle system I want to add is going to feel a lot cooler when we have just a glowing edge pushing out and then having these fade out. So let's dig into that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the playback for now, open up my material graph, and we're going to focus entirely on this bottom section here. This bottom section that we have is basically all the impact logic that we have so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press C when I have everything highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the impact stuff. This basically just is good practice to have, because one day you will be working with other artists who might want to look at some of the stuff you're working on. It's nice to go ahead and comment these sections out so they know, oh, so this is the section that deals with the impact. And that's a real simple thing. Again, highlight everything, press C. This one is, let's just say, textures for now. So we have impact, we have our textures. Go ahead and press C. We'll do normals for this. And then we can do the rest here later once we get finished up with the impact and we have everything sort of defined. So with the impact, this is going to be the fun part. We get to do a little bit more in depth with blueprint work as well as material graph work. So for starters, I want them to fade out. Right now they are expanding and then they just stay put. So what we need to do is take the values, because these are our two different shots. We're going to go ahead and bring in a multiply. That is also holding down the letter M and clicking. Then dragging over. And we're going to add these two multiplies in. Right now they're doing nothing. They're multiplying by 1. Not exactly exciting. But what we need them to do is hook up to a value that we can use to talk to the blueprint. And as you saw earlier in our last video, we talked to the blueprint through a thing called the material parameter collections. We have 4 of them over here. We've got the location 0, the radius 0, location 1, and radius 1. So what we need to do is create, these are vector 3s, right? It doesn't matter. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. This is going to take us back to our material parameter collection shield values, which if you press browse will show you where it's at inside of your folder. It's right here. And we're going to take that and we're going to add 2 new elements to it. So right now we're sitting here looking at some vector 3s, but what we need to do is add some scalar parameters. So we have 2 scalar parameters already. So we have the radius and the radius 0. We're going to add 2 more. So these ones are going to be set to default value of, let's do 1, because we want the fade to be like opacity. So when it immediately hits, it's at an opacity of 1, and then we will scale it down to an opacity of 0. We'll go ahead and call these fade 0 and fade 1. Cool. Save that, and then that's all we need to do inside of here. Then inside of the material, we'll go back here. Let me go ahead and save. I haven't saved in a second. Always save your stuff, please. I think you can set up autosave with Unreal. Set it up if you can. Saving is way too essential of a thing to forget about. So anyways, back to the multiply. What we're going to do is in the B category, just drop it down, and we're going to get out a material parameter. Oh, no. Let me type in collection parameter. Yes, collection parameter is what we're looking for. We will be using the material parameter collection shield right here. It's pointing to the one that we were just working on, this guy. And then we will go down and choose fade 0 for this one. And then I'm just going to use copy and paste here. I'm going to drop down here, and then I'm going to plug into the B down below. We're going to set it to fade 1. Cool. All well and good. We have fades set up, and these values are going to drive our opacity on our impacts. So now I'm going to go inside of the blueprint and set those up to work. So if we open up our blueprint shield impact down here, what we're going to do now is we're going to add in just one more little element to it. What's cool about our timelines that we set up in our last video is they have a cool thing where you can add in another float that goes on the exact same length of time as the previous one. So we haven't set up with 0.3 seconds to expand, but let's go ahead and set them up with a fade as well. Oh, new track, we'll call it fade. And then right click, we're going to add a key at time 0. We're going to have a value of 1 that is fully opaque. If you click these zoom to fit vertical and zoom to fit horizontal, you'll actually have it zoom in to the right value range for you, which is honestly fantastic. And then at time 0.3, which is our length up here, we're going to set the value to 0. So it's going to start out opaque, and then as the timer progresses or the timeline progresses, it's going to go down to 0. And go ahead and go back. So now you'll see we have a fade option at the bottom of our shield impact. We're going to go ahead and do the same on this one. Add a float. We're going to call it fade. I capitalized that one. I shouldn't have. We're going to set time to 0 and the value to 1. We're going to zoom in again. Set another key. We're going to set time to 0.3 and then our value to 0. And then we're going to save. I'm going to go inside our event graph. We now have fade values for both. Oh, look, it capitalizes both of them for me. So perfect. Then we're going to use this exact same setup that we're doing for the radius. We're just going to copy, paste the next one over. We're going to plug our next set of our blueprints, so the next sequence or the next thing to do in the compile. We're going to take our fade and plug it into our parameter value on both. Parameter name, fade 0 for the first one, fade 1 for the second one. And we're going to press save. We're going to compile, and then now, hopefully, if everything's set up correctly, when I shoot, ooh, we have fading out shots. Look at that. That looks so much better already. We no longer have them sticking around and looking like a sore thumb. Our next step is to make them look nice. So right now we have them bounced off and they are still circles. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more depth to it. So for starters, we want our impacts to have a glowing edge. So let's see what we can do to remedy that. There's a really cool node that we can use. Oh, let me go ahead and stop simulating, open up our material. We're already kind of using it, and right now we don't have a value in here, but the if is actually going to be an excellent node that we will be able to use for our impacts. So what we need to do is we want to have a super strong bleeding edge. And I'm going to go ahead and expand this just a little bit more to get some room. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another scalar parameter. This one we're going to call it bleeding edge. This is going to be the value we multiply our color by to create a bleeding edge. But for now, let's go ahead and use the same color we've been using for everything, this purple that we're using up here. I'm going to go ahead and drag this down into a multiply. And we're going to take the bleeding edge value and plug it right into the multiply. And for bleeding edge, I want this to be super bright and obvious, so I'm going to bump it up to 1,000. And then I'm going to plug that multiply into the if statement. And then I'm going to do the exact same down here. And we're going to do another save. Let that apply. And now, hopefully, if this is set up correctly, we should see a super bright glowing edge. So let's go back to the scene, move this out of the way, play. So now when we shoot, ooh, look at that. We got a sharp edge on the end of it while the inside is just a little bit less obvious as it gets full. So look at that. We got a nice sharp edge, and we can go back into our material instance, which is this guy right here. And we can take our bleeding edge value and we can absolutely blow it up if we want. And then you see it a lot shinier here. Honestly, I like that more. You know, you get a little bit more of that bright shine that actually takes your attention as you hit it. I like that. I'm going to keep it up super high. I have it at, I think that's 100,000, yeah. So I'm just going to leave it at 100,000. I think that looks really cool. We get a nice emissive to it. It looks pretty. I like it. Ooh, shoot. We should add that super bright bleeding edge color emissive down here to the bottom as well. I digress. We'll do that later. Let's keep on rolling. So let's go ahead and save here. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're actually going to add on some warble to that hard edge, or to that bleeding edge we just added. So in order to do that, what we're going to need to do is use our textures that we created earlier. We're going to take that value and kind of multiply it by our hard edge that we already have that exists. So in order to do so, we need to take the values that we were getting that created the impact, and we're going to subtract what we have here with the edges. So if we go ahead and take these bits, we move them, take these bits with up to the sphere mask and move them back. We might need a little bit of room here. And then what we want is we need a subtract node in between our sphere mask and our if statement. Goes into A, and line this up. Remember Q, and then drag in here. We're going to do the exact same thing, subtract, and drag that into A. Once again, select them all, Q, perfect, they're all lined up now. And then what we need to do is take the value from our textures. Let's go ahead and preview that so you can see what it looks like over here. Am I still simulating? I am. Let me unsimulate. Cool, so now you get some movement here. This is what we're seeing right now with our add, which you aren't seeing a whole lot of anything because they're moving at the same speed. So watch as I slow one down in the Y direction and move it in the horizontal X direction. And we'll see that update. There we go. So now you can see it panning across as well. We're going to take this noise, and this noise is going to be what warbles, or kind of makes our impact lines a little bit more squiggly. Take that add, we're going to plug it right into our subtract, and then we are going to save. Oh, that is absolutely right. We are right now using these textures as vector 3s, and then we're plugging them into a vector 1, which is a little weird for the system to figure out. So all we're going to do is, very simply, you're going to hold Control, and you're going to drag. This removes a node with all the connections attached to it, and we're going to move it down into the red channel. The red channel is going to be a float 1, which is going to work out perfect into our subtract, which is also going to be a float 1, fixing our error and solving our problem. I'm going to go ahead and press apply. And while that loads, okay, perfect. We're all loaded. I'm sure it's compiling on the other screen, but we should start to see a warble in what we have created. Oh, I'll move this out of the way and press play. All right, let's see if we see anything. Oh, we see a little bit of change. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That's so much better. Look at that. It's already just vastly different. It makes it look a lot less symmetrical, or a lot less like a real circle here. And we got a lot cooler design on every impact that we have on the shield. Look at that. That's cool. I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. This is moving in the right direction. Cool. So next up, let's go ahead and add a dial that turns this up and turns it down, so that way we can get as much movement as we want on this. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to drag out here into a multiply. Oh, that's a max. Sorry. Just hold down M, click, drag into a multiply. Actually, what might be better, once again, we're going to do a cool trick. Control, click on the node, and move it to the front of the multiply. Put our add in here, and then we're going to do another scalar parameter. So hold S, click, and we're going to call this edges. Works for now. Plug it in, and we'll leave it at 1. So if we go ahead and save, that will apply our changes and get us all set up. And then we're just about done with everything we need to do. We still have a super white center of our sphere, but I think we can replace that with probably something really cool instead. Maybe add in a second color, maybe a red, or yellow would look good because we get a nice contrast on it. Yeah, we'll add a yellow to the center core and then have it bleed into the purple. But yeah, that looks cool. One cool way to test this so you can see it, if you stop and then you just undo, this is holding down Alt and clicking on a line that severs the line. If you hold down Alt and you cut those off, so now we no longer have it fading, we can have it stick around so we can see it in action. So now you'll see we have that texture sort of playing in with everything happening on the screen. This is a great way to visualize it. But now we can go inside our instance here, and we have our edges panel here. Open that up, and then we can take off some of that warble. So if we don't want as much, or let's say we want it to be a lot more extreme to get some more unique shapes on every hit, you can turn that bad boy up to as high as you want. Let's say that's maybe just a little fast. Now that I'm seeing it, it definitely looks pretty fast. So I'm going to go ahead and tone this down to, let's say, 0.3. And then I really like the speed that the color is going at, so I think I might just do a separate set for this. I'm going to go ahead and plug you into here. This is Control, click on the node, and then I'm going to take this red channel and plug it into my add down here. That's going to allow me to go in this panner and change the speed to whatever I want. So that way we get just a little bit slower, it doesn't look as wild and crazy. And then go ahead and save. Give it a moment to decide whether or not my save was worthy of its time. Gotta love Unreal and its ability to make you wait. Alright, cool. So it is all set up. Now we go back in. Oh yeah, that's a lot slower, a lot more reasonable speed. There we go. Let's move them around. And it's still, I feel like with that getting all the way down to 0 at some parts and disappearing, it kind of looks strange. But it also cuts off the glowing edge a little bit. I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a clamp to this. Clamp will make sure that we don't get any of that like absolute cutoff points, because when we get to 0, it's just not going to show up whatsoever. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and take the add node. Actually, it might be better to do it out here. Nope, we'll do the add node. No, yep, second guessing myself. Oh my gosh. We're going to go ahead and grab a clamp, and then we're going to control click, move it over to here. We're going to plug into the clamp. But instead of a multiplier, let's actually go ahead and plug this in here just directly. We're going to get rid of the multiply. We're going to set the edges to our max. That's going to give us an actual like dial for what we can do with the dark colors. And then we're going to keep the min default at 0. And let's just go ahead and save. Let's just get a good look at what it does here. Once again, you can wait for Unreal. It takes a second to import always. Always a good chance to, pour a beer or get a coffee or whatever you want to do. Whatever you're up to on this lovely evening and or afternoon or morning, wherever you are. I'm going to go ahead and save this one. I don't know why I haven't saved this in a while, but I'm going to move it down here. There we go. So now we actually keep those shapes around just a little bit longer. And we still have the edges value at 4. Let's move it down to 1, which is what it was set at. Yeah, there you go. So now you still get some warble in it. And what about 0.3? My notes say 0.3 is the best bet, which I can't see any reason to doubt them. It definitely makes them move around a lot more. Let's see, 0.5. Yeah, I like 0.5 more. I don't know why I did that in my notes, but we're going to move it up to 0.5. I like 0.5. Who knows? That might come back to bite me. There's a reason why I make notes. But yes, okay, cool. So we are all set up there. Last thing is the centerpiece, right? Yes. So right now we're just taking the color and we're multiplying it by the emissive, and then we're plugging that in here. Because we are just adding the value on top of the color, we don't need this to always be the color. So let's go ahead and hold down 4 and click. That's going to give us a vector 4, which is an RGBA. The A doesn't really matter here. You can use a vector 3 if you want. I just do a vector 4 because I'm so used to colors having an alpha channel. And then I want it to be, our colors are kind of pink, so pink purple, so I'm thinking like a gold is probably our best bet. Move up to here, maybe a little deeper. Let's see how this goes. And we're going to take this and let's do it into a multiply, so that way we can control our secondary color. So I'm going to hold down S for a scalar parameter. We're going to call it secondary mult. So that way we have a secondary color, which is our gold. We can multiply it here. And all we're going to have to do is replace our, I believe our A is greater than B values. And we're going to plug that right in. Boom. Easy peasy. Oh, look, I'm already running into issues because I am silly and did a vector 4. Which is why I was saying you can totally do a vector 3, which will solve our problem. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Actually, this is a good opportunity. I like that orange. Let's go ahead and show you how you copy a color. You go down the hex linear here. Just copy this value. This is the hex number for this color. All you do is press OK and go into your next color and replace this value. Paste it in. Press OK. Boom. We've got our gold value over. Then we're going to go ahead and multiply it by, let's say, 50 for now. We might have to tone that back a little bit. And we're going to delete this, hold this, press Q to make it look nice. Move it over. At this point, we probably don't need this anymore. As far as I know, press save for it to apply. This node's unnecessary, multiplying by 1. Which will always give you the exact same thing. Let's see. Stand by. Okay, move this out of the way. Let's see how it looks. We're not getting our color just yet. Let's see. Why am I not getting my yellow? I want my yellow. Oh, that is not the material. Open the material. So I have my yellow. I'm multiplying it by my scalar value. Then I am plugging this value, double check, into my A is greater than B. And then I'm adding it. Maybe it's the add. Let me double check here. Maybe my values are a bit too high in my add. Let me just edit this value and just blow it up, see if we're actually getting any changes. Yeah, we are getting the gold, but it's being kind of blasted out by the actual purple of the shield. So how do we fix that? Let's dig into it. So we're adding it to the shield. What I need to do is subtract anything that's inside of it, so that way we have the color change. So stand by. Let me do some fiddling around here, and then I'll come back to you with my result. Alright, a couple headaches and an Unreal crash later. I think I've got a solve for this. It's a little bit like a little roundabout, kind of dumb way to solve it, but that's kind of the fun of game development. It's always just finding back ways to solve easy problems. Um, so what we've been doing is we're adding the color to it while it's still purple, um, which really isn't that big of a deal. And I think one of the main reasons why it looks kind of weird while we're adding it in here. Let me show it here. Oh, I don't have the blueprint back to show encasing it. Let me turn off the blueprint. Boop, boop. That's Alt and click. Don't forget. Move that out of the way. We'll click again. So now we'll leave them behind. Right now we have it set up so that the secondary color is still here and being added in at the moment. And the main reason why you're not kind of seeing it at all is because we have the bleeding edge so high. So I'm going to bring this down to 50. That way we take the bleeding edge down a little bit. And let's show the secondary multiplier go up. So you'll see now we actually have a pretty good orange color going on here. It's a nice little yellow. And we need this to be a lot brighter, but we don't need it blown up quite as much as we had it at. Made it be a little ridiculous. Yeah, that's looking a little better, honestly. Yeah, let's go ahead and keep it like that. I have a solve that makes it completely get rid of the add, but to be honest, I think this looks fine, and we'll just roll from there. But yeah, basically we're just taking that color and we're adding it in. But just so we can change these colors, we're going to go ahead and right-click on this color. We're going to convert it to a parameter, and we're going to name this secondary color. Perfect. And then while we're at it, let's go ahead and change this to a parameter, the original color, call it primary color. Cool. So now we have our colors parameterized. Also, just like we do with our scalar parameters, you can apply and we can go inside of our instance, and you'll see now we have primary and secondary colors set up, so we can change those at will while we're doing some of the tweaking and modifying. So that way, if you guys are working on a project that you want to be a little bit different than mine, you have that there at your disposal. I'm going to go ahead and move the colors into one area together. I'm going to move this down a hair. Move the colors so that way they kind of set up together. Press Q to make them look nice. Move this up. Perfect. And then I'm going to collect all of it. Press C, and we're going to call it color. Awesome. Then up here, we're going to press C. We're going to call this opacity. And then this part, we're going to press C, and we're going to call it depth fade. Cool. And then there you have it. I guess refraction you could comment out, but it's not that necessary here since it is just its own entity. But yeah, there you have it. There's our shader setup for right now. Let's go ahead and go back in. Oh, save. Make sure you save. Always save. For the love of goodness, save. Save, save, save. Takes a second because I'm also doing a simulation at the same time. Move this out of the way, and boom. We now have impacts. Oh, I'm going to turn the blueprint back on so we can actually showcase it. Boom, blueprint's back on. Move it out of the way. Save it. Play. Bang, bang, bang. Boom. We now have impacts on our shield that look a lot nicer than we had. These are just kind of bare bones looks at the material. Just a few things that you guys can look at and change. You can take it any direction you want. If you want it to feel like super techy, you can add in a different texture for your normal. I know that Unreal has a really cool hexagon texture. Yeah, here it is, hexagon tech normal. Yeah, this one. I think this one's rad. I was going to show it to you guys. I'll just show it so you guys can see it in action. It's going to be moving, which is going to be odd. But it definitely makes it look more techy. But yeah, at this point, it's kind of your creative freedom. There's a few ideas for ways you can take it. This needs to be tiled better, but yeah, you can kind of take it in any direction you want. But I'm going to go back to the water one. I think the water and organic look. Sorry, I'm doing off the screen here, but yeah, I'm just changing this normal back to the water normal, and then saving and applying. It'll save and apply, And then we should have a good looking shield. And yeah, there we go. Boom, now we have a nice shield with cool impacts. Thank you so much for watching. This has been part 2 of the shield series. I am excited for part 3. But thank you for coming out and watching the video. If you could, it would be awesome if you could subscribe. I'm a very small YouTuber, and getting any sort of subscribe, honestly, makes my day. So that would be so fantastic of you to do so. But I hope everyone has a good night or a good day or whatever you're up to, and take care. Bye.